You're listening to Mystical Science, the show that reveals the mysteries of the universe, so listeners can live more consciously connected.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mystical Science. I'm your host, Karen Elkin, on the Super Power Up Network. And for many years, I've danced in the arena of breakthrough energies, and this is where I met my guest today, Christian Weber. Today, we're discussing insights, innovations, and inspirations. And Christian's has had his own inspired breakthrough. And from his hobbies to his passion turned business, but from a challenge to an obstacle also turned into being his gift. So before I tell you what that invention is, what I will tease you with is it deals with everything from burners, the people who go to Burning Man, to firefighters. And he got his inspiration and answers to his question in a dream. So let me introduce Christian to you. He is a man I know and admire. He's a man of passion and conviction and compassion, besides his love for life. Mr. Christian Weber, over the past 30 years of experience and innovation, he's an innovative entrepreneur covering a wide range of markets, among them oil and gas development and reworking import, exports, logistics, manufacturing, mining, software, and internet systems. He has founded and funded many startups, and he pushes the envelope from concepts, technology, to marketing. So the title of the show today is Innovation and Inspiration. And with that, Christian, what did you invent that was so awesome?
Thank you, Karen. That was quite an introduction. Hi, everybody. Excited to be here. I invented a shelter called the Shift Pod. And it's a high-speed shelter. It's made of a 12-layer patented composite fabric that reflects the heat of the sun, keeps your body heat in at night, and we're really excited about it. We've been having a very good time over the past few years.
But you did something. What was your point of inspiration? Because you were having a lot of fun, and you're not somebody who doesn't like to think. I happen to know Christian. So Christian's mind is a very busy mind, and it's a very inspired mind.
Yeah, it's definitely, work. I'm a workaholic, admitted workaholic. What I try and do is find work that is fun so that working all the time is not detrimental. No,
but you're a burner. So where did this start from? It started from Burning Man.
Yeah, 1992, I went out to the desert kind of by mistake and found myself in the middle of this thing called Burning Man, and literally had a minivan and some peanut butter and jelly, and really had no clue what I was getting myself into. Ended up sleeping in the van, and years after you graduated into tents and you get a little older, make a little more money, you get into big RVs and think that's the the pinnacle of shelter out in the desert. And it left a lot lacking. 4 feet off the ground, the RVs wiggle, you're disconnected from all your friends. And it's a lot of stuff to haul out to the desert. And I longed for having my feet on the ground and being connected again. And it made a big difference.
But you had something that enticed you. You thought what is that, Hexayurt?
Yeah, Hexayurt is an interesting shelter designed by a gentleman by the name of Vinay Gupta, who studied under Bucky Fuller. And it was designed as an emergency shelter for large disasters. And the idea was to take over Home Depots in an emergency and utilize them to build these foam insulation board shelters with tape and foam boards. And it's an incredible design, very strong and durable. At the time, it was a very innovative product and a great solution to mass disasters.
But you had a dream, and because you thought it took you 3 days. See, I know the story. So it would take 3 days to set that up. So in some ways, for Burning Man, it was incredibly inefficient, and you thought it had to be a better way.
Well, yeah, like most products, there's always a better way to do it. That's why we continue to innovate. As a human species, we innovate every day, and all these different products get improved, and there's always a better mousetrap, right? So I was in my friend's Hexayurt, Justin, and he didn't. He's like me. He doesn't do anything normal. He's got Persian rugs and tapestries and 2 air conditioning zones and couches, and it was quite elegant. And so we're sitting there and I'm thinking, wow, this is way better than an RV. I'm doing this next year. And Justin said, all right, well, it's 3 days to build it, day to set it up, $200 in tape every year, transportation, truck, storage, on and on and on. And I thought, oh, I can't do that. I'm running a camp of 300 people. There's no way I have time to take a week to set up my own place. And so I quickly forgot about it. Until about 4 months later, I woke up in the middle of the night, about 3 a.m, and couldn't get the idea out of my head. There had to be a better way to fold it or tape it or do something to make it smaller and easier. And so I got the origami books out and I started folding paper and kind of figuring out some basic designs, and got online, found some hardware, got in touch with a factory that could make the product, and sent them sketches and designs, and went round and round for about a month with them, figuring out all the details. And then I took delivery of a sample. I took some photos of it and set it up on video, and then posted that to my Burning Man list, all the people that camp with us at Burning Man. At that time, the list was about 600 deep, and great response. I basically said, the first 30 people that send me $800 will get one of these space pods, and we'll have space camp. And that was really the extent of the vision. And one thing led to another, and one of our camp folks, Eddie, posted it on Facebook, and before I could say no, we had 300 people send me cash into the PayPal. And I thought, uh-oh.
You're in business.
I didn't mean to do that. So I got on an airplane and basically spent as much time as it took to get it done. And we took delivery of the first 300 units during build week of Burning Man. I literally had to leave the desert and drive to San Francisco, rent 2 U-Haul trucks, hand unload a container, and load them all into the U-Hauls, drive them back out to the desert, and deliver them to the people that bought them. Because coming out to the desert, failure is not an option. You can't leave 300 to 600 people that are camping out in these units without a shelter, right? So we literally were by the skin of our teeth, thanks to U.S. Customs and our manufacturers. We got them there just in time, and we delivered. And we delivered into really bad weather. It was 30 to 50 knot sustained winds. It was horrible, and we didn't kill anybody, and we didn't have any catastrophic failures. So in December, I turned it into a company, and we've been very pleasantly surprised. People love it, love the product. We're now working with SAR teams and fire departments and sheriff's office dive teams and DHS and FEMA and Cal OES firefighters. It's really been amazing.
We're going to take a short break here, but before we do, Christian, how can they find ShiftPod?
Well, we're actually online, and we sell direct to consumer to keep the cost down. And you can find us at shiftpod.com, SHIFTPOD.com.
Hello, everyone. This is Tonya Don Rekla, Executive Director of Superpower Experts, and we want to thank each of you for making Superpower Up the #1 podcast network for personal development and spiritual growth. Because people like you have the courage to say that mindfulness, healthy living, disrupting reality, the pursuit of consciousness, responsible entrepreneurship, and radical parenting matter, we now amass over 1 million downloads monthly in more than 90 countries. Our numbers keep growing because there are far more people willing to live divergently than mass media wants to acknowledge. For you, the change makers, the light bearers, the way showers, we say thank you. If you're ready to take the next step in your evolution, go now to superpowerexperts.com and take the Superpower Quiz. And as Neva Lee Rekla, our youngest podcaster, likes to remind us, remember, we all have superpowers and we can change the world.
Okay, we're back. This is Mystical Science. Our guest is Christian Weber, and today's show was on innovation and inspiration. And so interestingly enough, I don't think, Christian, you thought that this was ever going to evolve in the way that it did.
No, at the time I was 5 years into a oil and gas project. We had licensed a technology from some folks that was a green alternative to fracking, and my mission was to show the oil companies a better way to get more oil out of an oil well and not do as much environmental damage and not waste as much water. So that's what I was doing, and this really took off in a way that surprised all of us. And it was just, when you're in the flow, you got to pay attention to that and run with it.
But it's also served a much broader base. At first it was Burning Man and it was for fun. And now there's something really magical about what's happened. You've actually stepped in and helping firefighters, and you've gone into camps, you do festivals. So something's magically a gift to humanity in a multitude of ways. So why don't you've been in a lot of the California fires. You've actually been in one and have been at risk of it. So you've firsthand seen the problems, everything from setting up a camp with the tent versus setting a camp up with the shift pod. It's a huge difference.
Yeah, huge difference. I mean, I can set up a shift pod by myself in 22 seconds. And when you look at the other alternatives and over quantities, if you're setting up 1,000 units and one takes 10 or 15 or 20 minutes and one takes 1 minute, it changes things. It's a total game changer. Also, when you get on scene, time counts. You want to be able to, whether you're camping or going to a festival or going to a fire response, you want to be able to set up your shelter and have your shelter needs met so you can quickly move on to task at hand and focus on what really needs to be done. So,
but you keep evolving it, though. You actually now have lift parts so that they can go in with their gurneys. You have it so that they can actually just put a shelter over a person. You've done some amazing things, and you continue to be a stellar individual who keeps listening. So I think as a good entrepreneur, you always pay attention, and you're always in that state of evolution.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to listen. You have to not only take constructive criticism, but there's so many ideas. People come at you with all these different ideas, and you have to be able to filter those and figure out which ones are actually feasible and going to make a big difference. And then you really have to stay in the flow and listen to, not to sound too hippy dippy, but listen to the universe and stay in tune and not get distracted with a lot of the noise that comes at you.
Well, here's kind of funny. The people who actually run this whole network is called Super Power Up. So I think if we're not paying attention to the super gifts that we're given, and, a lot of people do consider it sort of hippy dippy, but in truth, no different than any radar, which your brain is, it
Right.
actually is able to pick up and to perceive and to pay attention when we do pay attention. And part of them is doing that. But the other interesting thing for me is, when you talk about looking at other people's innovations and inspirations, you're talking about Buckminster Fuller. So with people who don't know how that works, you want to explain how the principle of the buckyball sort of works?
Well, it's based on geometry and the structure next. What's a simple way to put this? Each structure within the build supports the other structure, and when you put pressure on one side of the ball, it distributes that pressure across the entire structure.
And so
yeah, so that's a really strong, really durable, really awesome design. And the trick with our product is trying to create that geometry in a way that folds up and collapses, but also offers that strength when it stood up.
Yeah, I've seen it at a trade show where somebody's collapsed it and opened it, and it leaves mouths completely wide open. They're stunned that somebody can collapse it literally that fast and put it up that fast. So you just had it in a ship where they're using it also for medical stuff.
Yeah, we sent it down with a group that we work with called Team 5, and they're a bunch of retired military guys that go down and do surgeries and different missions in third world countries. And we went into Peru, and they did, I think, around 500 cleft palate surgeries. They offered the first medical treatments in that area ever. And there was even one lady that came 8 hours away. I think she was 80 or 85 years old. And she rode a bus for 8 hours to get her first medical checkup in her life. Pretty amazing. And same group, we just literally last week, I went down to San Diego and we loaded up one of their submarines to ship down a bunch of shift pods and shelter pods and response pods down to Peru for the second mission, which is going to be in another part of the country and even more remote. So we love doing missions like that. We're going to the Philippines. We've got a fun project, guys ziplining across a volcano down in Nicaragua right now. And we've got units in Haiti. We've actually been in 26 different countries for 26 different disasters and responses, including Lesbos, Greece, for the refugees. We ran, I think, 30,000 people through warming stations built into shift pods as they were dumped in the water by the pirates over there. And they scrambled up on the beaches, and then we got them dry and warm, and off they went. So a lot of good stuff. From the beginning, our ethos has been to donate 1 unit for every 20 we sell to a family in need here in the U.S. And we've just kind of continued that and expanded on it. It's been a lot of fun, very rewarding.
So besides just going into harsh conditions, you kind of mentioned it in the beginning when you said you managed to go to Burning Man and you still stood standing. But what most people don't know, for example, when the firefighters come in and the helicopters are coming in, tents could not withstand that.
Correct. Yeah.
But the shift pod does.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of one of my favorite experiences to witness is when somebody just gets their shift pod and it's blowing like crazy, 30 miles an hour wind. And they come out and they're like, oh, wow, I didn't realize there was a storm going on.
Well, the other thing you talked about that the hexahertz or whatever it was had, you actually have air conditioning units. So if people want to get cooler or whatever, they can do it.
Yeah, we have air conditioner heaters. There are a lot of propane heaters out there in the market that work really well. But we're really set up for winter, summer, 5-season, they call it, product, 5-season camping. I think there are only 4 seasons, but for some reason they call it 5.
So I have a question. No, it's okay, because I know you have the layers and you have all those incredible things. Is there anything that you're seeing that's going to be evolving that's current that you're going to be doing? Because I know you do more than just this. You have other things you're toying with.
Yeah, we're actually working on a decontamination system for fire departments that will eventually turn into a shower system for campers, wherein you can put 5 gallons of water in it and take over 100 showers. We have.
How do you do that?
Well, it's a filtration and
recycling.
Recycling and lighting system.
Ah, okay.
5-stage filter, and then gets hit with light and kills all the bacteria and kills everything in it. The water's clean and then gets reused.
You got a little bit of what do they call it, charcoal and reverse osmosis going on in there?
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Well, he's the next guest on our show, or one of the soon to be, is a guy by the name of Robert Slovak, and he was the grandfather of reverse osmosis. Though he doesn't like the word grandfather, even though he's 75, he looks like he's 60. I mean, the guy is amazing.
Oh, perfect.
So that's great. And the laser lights do kill that. So that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So
we're doing that. And then we're working on one of the things I'm very excited about is we're working on a generator system that will put out 15 kW of power with the air conditioner and the heat, and it's all in one unit. So you can take it to a base camp and in one small R2D2 style unit, have everything you need.
Wouldn't that help for those houses that are going dark in California? I mean, with your new power grid issue?
Yeah,
that keeps sparking fires?
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Sounds like you could have a California solution.
That's quite possible. We'll see how the technology develops and if we can get it off the ground.
Okay. I'm just thinking, I have a solar power company I work with too. And it's like, come on, you guys, let's see if we can all get it together, because it seems archaic in this day and age that one of the third largest economies in the world would be plagued with this issue.
Well, what's really interesting to me is, I grew up in California. We've always had grass, we've always had trees, and we've always had winds, and we have the Santa Ana winds all the time. And I remember some fires in Southern California occasionally, but I've never heard of turning off the power to abate the fire risk. And it just seems really strange to me.
I kind of agree, but some people say the poles are 100 years old and they're literally sparking. PG&E does seem to have a monopoly and an issue, and it is bankrupt. So interesting. With all that said, maybe they'll, I thought maybe if they didn't want anybody to go off grid, and now everybody's off grid, and maybe it's one way to inspire people to move forward and onward in unique and different ways. So that
it sounds like a whole nother show.
It does. So I saw
one meme about that this morning. It was something like, they incentivized everybody to buy electric cars in California and then turned off the power.
Oh, I did have a friend who said he had the Tesla car. He went to plug it in. The plug didn't work in the first place. It didn't work in the second place. And he gets, if you were to have gotten out of a town like Paradise, you'd be toast.
Yeah.
You'd be toast. You can't get anywhere. And, I did an issue years ago on water, and electricity are intrinsically needed. And California's had a huge water issue.
Right.
So they're actually they're in bed together. And so to push one thing over the other is insane. But as you and I know, having been to technology conferences, there are cars that can work on water, on salt water. And we know that is a solution that's existed for a while. And I know the Navy uses it for some of its ships. So why we can't have that technology, I'm not quite sure. But since we're talking about innovation and inspiration, that maybe at this point we're ready for some of these more practical things.
Yeah, I think the next 10 years is going to be very interesting. I think there's a lot of technology on the verge of being revealed and marketed. And I think it's going to be a really interesting time.
I hope so. We all both know that there are as many patents as that have been sealed off from the public for a long time for quote unquote national security, but they would have made and still can make this a great nation again.
Absolutely. And in fact, one of the patents that was just released from a national security hold, it was a black project, was an air conditioner that was used on some of the military helicopters. And we are actually working with the guy that invented that and developed it. And we're trying to put that technology into our air conditioning system.
Awesome. And I shouldn't just say make our country great again, because we're from the U.S., but at the same time, we would make it great for the world, just like your product is making it better for, camps and even festival camps that you actually make hotels out of. Right. Some
of the emails I've been getting are so encouraging. We have a customer called the Electric Daisy Carnival down in Las Vegas. We did 4,800 units down there this year in the parking lot of the Las Vegas Speedway. And we were contacted by some folks down in the Bahamas after the disaster there. And so we reached out to EDC. Long story short, they ended up donating 1,000 of the units. And so now we literally have 1,000 families in the Bahamas living in shift pods. And some of them in the houses, where their house was destroyed, the hole where their house was, there's a shift pod, and they're able to rebuild their life from that place.
I think people should know how comfortable the shift pod is. It's how tall? It's like 6 feet tall?
Yeah, it's 6'5" in the center. It's 6 feet tall at the shoulder, and they're 12 foot hexagon.
So you have 3 sizes.
We have three sizes. Yeah, the ShiftPod Mini, which is a 6x6 square. We have the ShiftPod 2 presently, which is a 12-foot hexagon. And then we have the XL, which is a 14-foot hexagon with the big bay door that opens up.
Yeah, and I have my Mini, and I have put it on the airplane, and it has come with me back and forth to a show, and
Perfect.
I love it. Yeah, it was awesome. And so with that said, Kristen, is there anything else you think that they should know that I've missed? We don't want to miss a thing.
Yeah, well, I think, what you touched on, staying in the flow, paying attention to what the universe is telling you, and meditate, exercise, take care of yourself, and most of all, get outside and change up the scenery. Go have a shift moment.
Yeah, I love that. So, Christian, where else can they, just one more time, where do they find you?
Shiftpod.com.
Okay, and then for the listeners, Christian's going to give us a code. So,
Absolutely. If you go to the website and you decide to order something, on checkout, you can order, you can use the coupon code MYS10 for 10% off.
Yeah, there we go. So isn't that awesome? To my buddy friend, I'd like to say, listen to your inner mystic and then take action. That's something Christian always does. He always takes action. And join me where we explore the mysteries of the universe. You can go deeper with me at sciencetosage.com. To date, I've done over 60 magazines, tons of interviews, and I have an award-winning book in the area of science. And you'll find things on innovation, subtle energies. And I say take a Renaissance approach. And thank you, Christian, for joining us. And with that, thank you, everybody, and goodbye.
Are you ready to discover your superpowers? Go now to superpowerexperts.com and take the superpower quiz today.